right, Diane, I think it is 10 o'clock here. So I think best case, we just get rolling here. First off, I just want to say thanks, Diane, for taking the time and putting this together. I know that this is something that we've talked about for a while now, and I'm glad that we could get this provided for the athletes and these families here. To all of you, it's looking like this number climb. This is exciting to see that we're almost at 70 participants and climbing, I assume. It is great to know that there's so many that are interested in this, because we firmly believe that this is a huge aspect in young athletes' youth development on the nutrition side of things. So without further ado, I'm just going to turn this over to Diane. I don't think I can really say much more, and it's all yours, Diane.
Cool. Thank you, AJ. And a little shout out to AJ too. Just like he said, we kind of chatted earlier in the summer. Was there any way we could sort of work together? But when I mentioned this, he just jumped right on board, and I'm super excited when I can find people that are on similar mindset and the value that this brings to you guys as student athletes, but also to those of you that are parents that are on this call, and to the coaches. So thank you, AJ, and thanks all of you for coming in to chat with me this morning and hopefully learn something a little bit new. I will just quickly introduce myself so you know sort of where I'm coming from. I was a student athlete. I played volleyball. That was my sport. I still play. I did play for a year in post-secondary as well. And then I went on to pursue my education degree. So I taught phys ed in high school for 5 years. And when I started my ed degree and I wasn't playing anymore, I started coaching. So I've been coaching volleyball for 21 years in youth sport, working with ages from junior high to high school in the club system, boys, girls. I just love it. And so I guess I sort of, I see that I know what your experience is like as a student athlete. I know what the coaches are going through. I know that side of things. Also through my time in youth sport, I had the opportunity to sit on the board of administration for the club that I worked with. So I was on that board for 6 years. And then I also ran a program for 2 years as president. So again, I've seen the angles. I sort of know the challenges that come into play for the athletes, the parents, and for the coaches and the programming, and how do we fit it all together. I am certified in holistic nutrition and sport nutrition. I'm a certified yoga teacher. I'm trained in meditation and mindfulness practices, and I love incorporating that stuff with athletes. And overall, I've spent about 11 years now in the wellness industry in different aspects, working with clients in nutrition, and a lot of time spent with student athlete groups in schools, in clinics. I did spend 2 years also with the University of Calgary women's volleyball program as their wellness consultant. And my main role there was to support them with their nutritional endeavors, many of which had never had any kind of formal session, anything even like this, to help them with their goals. And we did bi-weekly yoga together. As the coach and I joked that it was forced recovery because they wouldn't do it otherwise. So I'm an educator. This is my passion. I love speaking about this stuff. I love coaching. I love sport. I love creating things that sort of bring all of this together. And so what I hoped to kind of get across to you today is just like my passion for this, and the reason why I believe this is such important information for our student athletes to have and to start to embrace on their journey. I also want to show you where I've been. So the far picture on the left is me when I was 20, maybe 21, and I've been living with ulcerative colitis for about a year. And that's me on all the drugs, super sick, wondering at 20 what my life was going to look like, because how could I possibly be so sick after the year before I was playing post-secondary volleyball? I will tell you that it was food that changed my life. I learned what my body needed. I learned what it didn't need anymore. I learned about my mindset and how to manage stress in my life. And now you see me here. This was the other picture, is me and my brother's wedding last September after I married them. And so I've been through the gamut. I've recovered from several surgeries. I used food. I now have 2 kids after being told I probably wouldn't ever have kids because I was too sick. I am symptom free. I am healthy. I am active. I am loving my life. And it all started with food for me. So I just want you to know, like, because we're the student athlete focus, but there's parents on here and there's coaches on here, and food is our medicine, you guys. It will take us where we want to go. It can also be our poison if we are not eating the things that are good for us. And it absolutely impacts what we get to do in our life. Okay, it impacts our ability to achieve our dreams. And I'm really fortunate that I have figured that out for myself. Okay, so athletes, I'm going to just start with you guys, and you've probably, I assume, have talked a lot about goals in your programming, right? Whether that's in the gym or maybe you have a team goal or something you're trying to work towards. But I want you to start thinking about your dreams. And sometimes the two, I feel, get a little mixed up. Our dreams come first. If we're not dreaming about what if I could, I wonder if one day I could, our dreams are what take us into action. Okay, if we don't spend time just dreaming without pressure, just imagining, then we don't have anything to pursue, because we never wonder, what if I could do that? So I would encourage you, like, when we won't do it now because we're short on time, but what are your dreams? Like, what dreams do you need to think about before you ever even look at your goals? Because we set our goals to meet our dreams. Okay, and the reason that I tell you this is because for me and my scope and everything that I've learned, it's all connected. So even when we're talking about food, why would I spend time on this? Why is this important to me as an athlete, as a parent, as a coach, as a person? It's because there are things that I want in my life. And if I'm going to get there, I need to be healthy. I need to have the foundations, the fuel, the energy, all of the things to make that happen. That's ultimately what it's all about, right? So athletes, like, get your paper out one day and just start writing, or make a picture or a vision board or something. What do you want? Just dream, because all the things that we're going to talk about today, they're going to help you get there. Okay. I think my pictures are maybe in the way of my titles here, but what I want to just share with you quickly is my perspective on this holistic approach to health, to the life of the student athlete. Okay. When we talk about holism, we're basically coming to this realization that all the parts of the thing are connected. So all the parts that make us us are so interconnected that we don't exist without all of them. We can't be understood if we don't look at all of them together. And so what I've seen in youth sport over the years, and where I see that we have some challenges, is that our current model is pretty typically focused on individual pieces. Okay, we have all the practices, the games and the practices, excuse me. We might be in the gym, okay? Maybe we have some mental training if you're really lucky, because that's apparently 80% of the game. So why don't we focus on that more? That's a whole nother call. Is there any focus on nutrition? Is there any focus on rest, recovery, how we do that? Do we consider the social life, the family life, the jobs, the stresses, the illness, all of the things? All of these make us well. They all contribute to that dream, to that goal, whatever it is that we're trying to get to. And I really saw this take shape when I was at UFC working with that team. And in the little box that is a quote there from the coach. And she said that in the 2 years that we worked together, injury rates decreased by 80% in 2 years. The overall mental and emotional health of the athletes increased, and their nutritional decisions made an impact on their performance. That year, that second year, they won Canada West. Putting all the pieces together for these athletes, this was the first time this had ever happened for them. And it was literally all their goals, all of it just kind of popped up in front of them. It was so cool to see this work together. And I believe that this is possible for any of us when we start to look at all the pieces. Okay, so the reason that I have started to really focus on student athletes specifically is because it's interesting. If you get into nutrition research, there's a lot of information out there for adult athletes. Okay. like 18 and older. There's also a lot of information for us if we're looking at nutrition for kids, but there is very little research and information for us for student athletes. And the reason it gets so foggy is because they're in two of the most critical nutritional stages of life at the same time. And we don't see that in most other stages of life, or like stages of, I guess, growth or activity. So the first one is for student athletes. They are growing and developing rapidly. Okay. Lots of body changes happening in a short period of time. The other thing for them is that they are also putting heavy demands on their body. They're training, they're competing, they're under prolonged periods of physical exertion and stress at the same time. So of all the times in life when nutrition is the most important, student athletes are in both of them at once. And that's one of the only times that we see that in our lives. Okay. Now, knowing that, I think you will agree that we typically are not given what we need to make that all work for us. Okay, so what we're starting to see in youth sport is it's not great. I'm not going to lie. We see a lot of student athletes that are unable to reach the training goals and the competition goals that they have set for themselves. And they end up defeated and they end up frustrated, and some drop out. We see a lot of kids burning out also just due to physical and mental fatigue because they simply don't have the energy to keep up with the demands of their life. We also see increased evidence of chronic injuries that we never have seen before in youth sport. Young athletes dealing with things like stress fractures and back injuries and recurring injuries. Parents, coaches like you, if you're like me, I think I played with one girl that blew her knee out in high school, and that was like an anomaly. We never saw that. Okay. The inability to recover fully from acute injuries. So we end up with an ankle sprain, but it keeps nigging at us. Like it just is there. It never fully gets better. And huge reports of increased feelings of overwhelm, anxiety, depression, and stress among our student athlete groups. And I don't know about you guys, but this is not what I think of when I think of sport. This is not the abundant arena that we want to be in. And it doesn't have to be this way. What we've been missing is this foundation on nutrition. Student athletes need support. They need information, they need knowledge, and they need help with implementation so that they can grow and develop healthfully, that they can support their level of activity and simply their demands for daily living, because daily living for them right now is way faster than it ever was for us. Okay. I don't know if you have heard of the relative energy deficiency in sport syndrome. This is something that was identified in 2014 by the International Olympic Committee, and it is generally for elite adult athletes, like they were looking at, Olympic athletes. And previously it was known as the female athlete triad. So what we would see was this sort of tripod of female athletes that were experiencing some form of disordered eating, whether that was by accident or intentionally. They also experienced irregular menstrual flow or periods, or what we call amenorrhea, and they also were experiencing bone loss. So in 2014, the IOC discovered that this was actually now also impacting males, and so they changed the name of this to REDS. And so what REDS is a variety of different manifestations of health issues that are coming up for athletes. Things like endocrine and reproductive dysfunction, impaired bone and muscular health, all kinds of physiological complaints, and performance issues. And all of this is due to a relative energy deficiency, meaning their nutritional foundations aren't there. What I have seen in the last 11 years is that this is happening to our kids. This is not just for Olympic athletes. Okay, this is happening for our student athletes now. And they're still growing and developing. Like, we need to change this. Okay, what we know is that if we take a bit of time and a little bit of effort and we give them information, there is scientific consensus that this kind of eating strategy actually increases our training gains. It increases our performance, and we reduce the risk of injury and illness. And illness could be something as simple as, I don't get a cold as often as my teammates or my competitors do. That's an advantage, right? Also, if we happen to become injured or we happen to become sick, we get better faster. All from a well-planned eating strategy. So why are we not doing this, right? And that's, I was talking to EJ at the beginning, if you hadn't popped on yet, but this is a perspective shift. Our student athletes need information, education about what food does and how it works in their body. And I am thanking you so much for being here, because I'm going to give you some of that today. They also need to understand what to eat and when to eat it, because that can be really helpful for them. And they need support with implementation, because let's face it, most of their friends at school, most of the food that surrounds them in their daily lives and the way that they are marketed to does not support what we ask them to do with nutrition. Okay. These guys need just the opportunity to learn about the needs of their body and their mind. And all of this gives them the opportunity to perform at their highest potential and to achieve the goals and the dreams. It's all possible. Okay, so again, I just want to celebrate you guys, because I'll tell you right now, you are not the norm. This is not the normal athletes. Most of the people that I'm like, hey, I can give you this information, they're like, there's no time and there's no money. And so we can't do it. Okay, this has to come first. How much time are you going to spend in the gym? How much money are you going to spend on the program? And your kids are depleted. This can come first, and everything else will be amazing. Okay, we get the chance to change and improve the student athlete experience. And so I want to thank you guys for being a part of that with me today. Okay. Okay, so I believe you got an email that asked you to have a pen and a paper and a calculator. And we're going to do a little bit of number crunching here for you. Okay. Parents, you can do this for you too. Coaches, you can do this for you too if you want. This is geared more for the kids, but it's always interesting information to take away. This first one is just kind of a couple quick little things. So we're going to look at deciding what our physical activity level is, and we're going to get our weight in kilograms if you don't already have it. And we're going to use that in the next couple slides. Okay, so first of all, the physical activity level is just kind of an assessment, a number value that we assign to how active you are. So you can see on the screen there the descriptions. If you're little to no exercise, you're at a 1.2. If you're moderate activity, maybe 3 to 5 days a week, you're around a 1.55. Heavy activity, so that's exercising 6 to 7 days a week, 1.725. And if you're very heavy activity, that's heavy workouts, hard training in practice, in competition, maybe multiple workouts in the day, that would be for you. And when you're thinking about this, you guys, 2 things: go with your first gut instinct on which is the right number for you. Also, I have the feeling from what AJ was telling me that you're all pretty much like pretty full on in your seasons right now, but put yourself in that mindset if you're not. So if you're not quite in your heaviest season, think about what that will look like and use this as a guideline for that time, if that makes sense. Okay, so you're just going to write PAL on your page, put the number beside it that works for you, and we're going to come back to that in a second. And then you're going to calculate your weight in kilograms. So if you're not sure how to do that, it's your weight in pounds. You're going to divide by 2.2, and then just write that on your page as well. And if you're not sure about your weight in pounds, don't stress. You will get this recording. You can always come back to this later. Do your best guess at this point in time. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to look at is we're going to calculate something called our basal metabolic rate. And the reason that this is important is because the basal metabolic rate is the amount of energy your body requires to maintain basic physiological function at rest. So like if you imagine a day where you just get to, lay around all day, watching movies, laying in bed, not being active at all, okay? Our body needs a certain number of calories every day to just maintain function. So things like pumping blood, digesting food, breathing, growing hair and skin, and even just maintaining body temperature. 70% of the calories we burn in 24 hours just goes to those things. Okay, 70%. That's a lot. Okay, so we're going to figure out what your basal metabolic rate is approximately. Again, this is all estimations. Girls, there is a formula there for you on the screen. Guys, there is a formula there for you on the screen. Make sure you do the one that is the right one for you, because it makes a difference. Guys generally have a higher metabolic rate than women do. Okay, so I will give you just a couple of minutes to do that. Maybe take a quick screenshot of it if you like, in case I move on prior to you finishing. Or again, you can always come back after and listen to the recording. While you are doing that little bit of calculation, I'll just speak to this quickly for a moment. So the reason that I started getting athletes to do this is because of the time that I spent in classrooms and with teams, and we would evaluate this, and the number of athletes that I would survey after the fact that we discovered weren't even eating enough to support the requirements of their basal metabolic rate on a regular basis. So they're not only energy deficient, meaning not enough energy to get through their day, but they're depleted because on top of rest, they have practice and training and school and life and jobs. And so there's really, like, it makes perfect sense why we see injuries, why we see the mental, physical challenges, why kids are burning out. They just can't sustain this. Okay. So when we know the basal metabolic rate, then we have kind of like a baseline of like, we must get at least this much every day just for rest. And then we're going to need some more. Okay. I'm going to flip my screen now to keep things moving along. I can always also come back to this screen at the end of the session if you guys want to revisit that. So now what we're going to do to kind of put the things together is take that basal metabolic rate and we're going to multiply it by the physical activity level you selected. And that's going to give you a number of calories that is your estimated daily caloric requirement. Okay. So when I was working with the team at U of C, some of those girls are like 6'4", 6'5". They're big, they're strong, they have a big muscle mass. And there were some of them based in their heaviest training, competition, practice part of the season that were requiring almost like 4,000 calories a day. And they looked at me and they were just like, how am I supposed to eat that much? Right? The way that we have learned about eating and nutrition, and it does not all compute when we have a super busy jam-packed day. So this was one of the things that we got to work with them on, was just, okay, well, this is what I know now. Now, how do we implement this through the day without it being an added stress, right? This information, when you get this number, understand that this will change as you change, and it will change as your season changes. So if you're going from, like, say you do this at the beginning of your season and then season ramps up and you're into more intensity, you reevaluate. If season starts to go, you're getting into postseason, maybe you get some breaks in there, you reevaluate again. As you age, as you grow, as your muscle mass increases, you continue to reevaluate. And specifically, if something is not going well for you, if you haven't been able to hit that next training goal, if you're finding your performance is not where you want it to be, look at your energy, right? Look at what your body is getting. Maybe something needs to change. Okay. So that big number that you have, keep that on your page somewhere as sort of like again, it's an estimate based on, we're on a Zoom call with all these people and I'm here on the screen, but this is just a really good guideline for you. Okay. An exercise that is super valuable that I would encourage you to do either as the individual athlete or with your team, and coaches, you could do this pretty easy. And the other thing is, you guys, if you're doing this in a team setting, this is the beauty of nutrition in sport, because you talk to any person that's trying to make nutritional changes on their own, and it can be pretty tough sometimes. But when you have your whole network of teammates and you're all working towards a common goal and you have the support around you, it makes it so much easier. Okay. So as an exercise, take 5 days and track what you eat. We call it a food journal. I like to use like a calendar, like a blank calendar. You can print one off the internet and just write down everything that you're eating in the day, eating and drinking. Make sure that one of the days of those 5 days is a weekend, because we often eat quite differently on the weekends than we do during the week. And then once you've completed the 5 days, pick one day as a minimum. Maybe you do more, but you're going to go onto the internet, go into Google, and you're going to type in the items that you recorded. So for example, if you had boiled eggs for breakfast one day, you're going to write, okay, calories in a boiled egg, and you're going to get a number value popped up. And can you write that into your food journal? When you've completed all of that, you're going to total up the calories that you ate for the day. Will it be perfect? No. Is it an estimate? Yes. Okay. Then you can start to ask yourself some questions. Am I meeting my basal metabolic rate? That's a really important thing to notice. Okay. Did I meet my daily caloric requirements with my physical activity level in there as well, right? Also important to notice. Also, you can notice things like, what foods do you eat most often? Because that's often a place where we can make little switches that aren't super drastic, but that benefit us. When do you tend to eat the most or the least? Okay, and what do you find most challenging about eating enough? What are the barriers for you? Because when we identify them, then we can, then we can change them. And the big question, like I started, if you keep doing this way, is that going to get you where you want to go? And what I have found 95% of the time is that student athletes are like, oh my gosh, I had no idea. I'm not even eating my basal metabolic rate most days. No wonder I'm tired. No wonder I can't hit that next training goal. No wonder I can't focus in practice. Okay. Now, I will just say quickly, there are apps that you can do this with, right? Like all kinds of different apps that you can use that will track your food. You can do that. I would encourage you to write it down, because when you write it down and you actually have to research it yourself, it gets into your brain in a much different and more efficient way than it does when the phone does it all for you. Okay, so taking a little bit of extra time makes it sink in deeper for you as the individual. Okay, now I wanted to show you this. And again, I apologize, the little pictures are, I think, in the way of the title, but this is called the Okinawa Diet Food Pyramid. And this is not mine. You can get this off the internet. Okay, just Google it. I, as a holistic nutritionist, I do not have to prescribe to the Canada Food Guide. And I will tell you that I seldom do. I like to work from this food guide. And the reason that I choose this one is because it is one of what we call the blue zones in the world. Okinawa is one of the places in the world where they have studied and recorded the highest number of centenarians, or the people that are living to be around 100 years of age. And there are lots of them. And so they've done research around why this is the case, and they have brought it all back to food, or a large portion of it back to food. And so I want to share with you a couple of things that are different in this way of eating than what we typically see here in North America, and things that you can try to kind of just support what you're doing. Okay. Now you'll notice on the side of the pyramid at the top, I think part of it might be cut off for you, but it says optional weekly. And then down towards the bottom where the pyramid is widest, it says eat daily. Okay. So understanding that that in itself is even different from our food guide, that there are things that we want all the time as a foundational part of our diet. And then there's things that we just enjoy sometimes. Okay. And the very, very top of that pyramid, again, I don't know if you can see the picture, but it's a little bowl of ice cream and it is titled sweets. And the servings are 0 to 3 servings, optional in a week. And I just want you to think about that for a second. Okay. I'm not saying we can't enjoy our treats. Pleasure and food are very important for us as healthy human beings. However, the reason that this is so different from us is, or from what we see, is that we have a high amount of processed foods that we eat every day. Anything in a package or a container will have added sugar in it. Almost 100% guarantee. And so we get way more than that 0 to 3 servings a week simply because the foods that we're eating have added sugar in them. So student athletes, if you were going to change one thing that would have a major impact on your health long-term, you try to reduce the amount of sugar that you consume, and you do that simply by eating fewer things in packages. Okay, now I know also time factor, it's really great to have something in your bag you can just grab and we good, better, best, right? We need to make sure we're getting our food, our nutrition in. But if we can start making some of those little switches, that is a powerful, powerful shift for our health. Any conversation about immune function, we need to think about reducing our sugar consumption. That is all I will say about that. You'll also notice the second little category there is meat, poultry, and eggs. So we're talking about our animal protein sources. And you'll notice that in Okinawa that is optional weekly. 0 to 7 servings of animal protein optional in a week. Now here, when I survey student athletes in classrooms and team settings, we usually discover that most of us are eating 3 to 4 servings of animal protein in a day, every day. And so is that we have different ways of looking at this, right? We kind of exist in our little bubble of this is what we've always done, and this is how our parents and our grandparents ate, and we keep doing it. But it doesn't mean it's the only way. What this food guide also incorporates are a lot of plant-based proteins, meaning we can still eat our animal protein, but it doesn't have to be our only protein source. When we have balance and variety among complete and incomplete proteins, then our body just has this way more massive nutrient pool to pull from in order to keep us functioning optimally. Okay? That is one thing I wanted to point out to you. You'll notice the next category, there's actually like vegetable oils and condiments. And you'll notice that it's like actually good quality oils in glasses, and there's herbs and spices in there, things that came from the earth. If we had a condiment category in the Canada Food Guide, it would have ketchup and mayonnaise and mustard in it. So there are ways that we can enhance what we're eating simply by choosing the things that actually came from the earth to add value to our food instead of adding on stuff that actually just detracts from what we're trying to get. Okay. You'll notice there is also an omega-3 food serving or foods category. And I will talk more about this when we get into fats, but you'll notice that this is getting into the eat daily. Okay. And this is something that isn't mentioned in our food guide. And most of us are deficient in our essential fatty acids, particularly omega-3s. These are anti-inflammatory agents in our body, and we need them. They are essential. So we have to find ways to bring these into our diet. We want to seek out healthy fats and add them in. Okay. The last one I'll mention here is there is a calcium foods category in this pyramid. And probably if you're thinking, what would this be in the Canada Food Guide? I'm pretty sure you would all think dairy. We have our dairy category. There is no calcium food. There is no calcium category in the Canada Food Guide. We have been taught that our calcium comes from milk. And that is not the only way you can get calcium. And there may even be some of you on here who struggle digesting dairy products. Very, very common. Okay. Can you drink milk and eat cheese and yogurt, and can that be beneficial for you? Yes. Does it have to be the only way you get calcium? I hope not. Almonds, cruciferous vegetables, fish, there's so much out there that we can add in. Your calcium does not only have to come from milk, and the more variety actually you have, the better it will be. Okay. And then all you student athletes, especially noticing the bottom couple levels of this pyramid and the color and the vibrancy and the amount of food that is there. Good quality whole foods that come from the earth. This is what we want to think of for ourselves. This is how we want to fuel ourselves. Okay. So I'm going to briefly get in a little bit here to some macronutrients. So a little bit about carbohydrates, protein, and fats, and then a little bit on hydration. And I'll just say too, with all of the, I'm going to give you the opportunity here to kind of break down some more numbers for yourself, but I will tell you straight up that I am not a numbers person. If someone came to me and was like, you need this many calories and this many grams of this and this many grams of this, I would probably be completely overwhelmed. Even now, that's not how I operate. What I'm trying to get you to think about here is just developing a level of awareness of what it looks like how much it is. Okay. And for those of you that are number minded, or you have that very logical or strategic brain, then the numbers will be really helpful for you. Okay. So don't feel like you have to walk away and start measuring everything. That is not the intention of this. It's to simply bring light to, like, what would this actually look like? Okay. So when we talk about carbohydrates, again, we're thinking of the bottom couple lines of that pyramid, and we want to think about foods that come from the earth that look like they just came off the tree or out of the ground or from the animal. Okay. Good quality whole foods are going to give you not only the energy you need, but the nutrients, the vitamins, and the minerals that your body actually requires to do its job. Okay. For the majority of athletes, and I say majority because everyone is different in what their body needs, but generally speaking, carbohydrates are the most important macronutrient for sport performance. And the reason that this is because they're like your fuel. Like if you were a vehicle, if you were like, I would say like a Ferrari, you're a high performing machine, you're going to put premium fuel in that vehicle. And you know that if you run out of fuel, your vehicle stops. And it is very much like that for us with carbohydrates because it is our energy source. Okay, so when we eat carbohydrates, and it doesn't matter if it's a piece of bread or a piece of spinach or an apple, eventually somewhere in the process of our body breaking that down, it turns into glucose, which is sugar. And then we store that as glycogen in our muscles and in our liver. Okay. As soon as we start moving around, we start using that energy up. So if we have not been consuming carbohydrates through the day and then we go to practice, but we've had already a busy day, we're already in a deficit. We don't have the energy we need for our muscles to do what they need to do. So when we see this inadequate supply of carbohydrates or glycogen stores, this is where we see that decrease in performance. We see mental and physical fatigue just set in. And if you've ever heard the expression of, oh, I hit the wall, it's like you were going and you were performing and you were feeling good. And then all of a sudden it's just like, boom, and you just stop. It's a really strange feeling, but that's what we say. We hit the wall. It means you exhausted those carbohydrate stores. You use them all up. Your body needs more. They need to be replenished all the time. So I'm going to share with you in a couple slides an eating strategy that will help you maintain this, right? So that you're constantly supplying your body with this energy. For the average student athlete, 50% of your total calories in a day should come from good quality carbohydrates. So if you wanted to calculate this for yourself, again, you can take a little shot of this or come back to the recording if you want to do it later. You're going to take that total calorie number and just divide it in half. Okay. If your sport requires like longer bursts of energy, if your training is getting really heavier, maybe you're getting to be an older athlete, getting closer to that age of 18, Depending on your sport, this could get up as high as 60 to 65%. But again, most athletes start around 50. That's a good place to start, and you can modify based on how you're feeling after that. Okay. Now, when we talk about proteins, when I'm in a classroom setting and we get chatting about what protein does, most athletes tell me it's for building muscle. Okay. And yes, that is an important part, but it's also repair of muscle, but also just repair, general body repair. We need more protein if we're sick, if we're injured, if we're hurt. Okay. Protein does a lot of different things for us. It also produces hormones and it produces enzymes. So enzymes are what help us digest food, and they also help us break down old cellular debris that we're trying to get rid of. And how rapidly you guys are changing right now, you've got a lot of hormonal stuff going on, and protein is a part of all those processes. Okay, it's part of your energy production. It helps support your metabolism. Also, if your intensity is increasing, as your muscle size increases, your muscle mass, your demand for protein will also go up. Okay. This is also a really critical component to improving performance, but also that recovery piece, okay? Helping the body to continually be restoring after all the work we're doing. And like I said, with the pyramid, what we want to try to do is, yes, the animal proteins, they are easily absorbed into our system. We get all the amino acids we need from them, but the more that we can balance that out with plant proteins, the better off we will be. When I was teaching high school, I had a grade 12 student who was getting into bodybuilding, and he told me how many chicken breasts he ate every day. And I was just like, buddy, like, what are you doing? This is not like, you're missing some critical information here. Okay. We want lots of balance. We want lots of variety in the things that we're consuming. And with the plant proteins, we also get all the other phytonutrients, the fiber, all these other things that are beneficial for us. And it is in those blue zones around the world where people are living really, really long. The one thing they all have in common is that they consume a lot of plants, plant foods. Okay. So remember that those are also a part of your protein intake. For young athletes, for student athlete groups, again, it varies because we're all different, but typically between the ages of like 12 to 17, 18, you're somewhere between 1.1 to 1.4 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. So there's a little formula there if you're interested in looking and seeing what that number would be. This again, it's hard to do this on a screen. If I was sitting with each of you, we would be talking about what was going on for you, what were your, what was happening in the gym, where were you at in a lot of these different things. So we would get a more accurate number, but go based on what feels best for you. Okay. If you're training really hard, if you're growing really fast, maybe you're a little bit older athlete right now, you're a little higher on this spectrum. Okay. If you're still a little bit younger athlete, demands aren't as high yet, you can choose closer to the end or to the bottom. And to give you just a perspective, like an elite adult male bodybuilding athlete would be around 2.0 grams of grams of protein per body weight. Okay, so again, that is there if you're interested in looking at those numbers. And then we talk about fat. Okay, when I chat, especially with female athlete groups, I've had some young ladies ask me about, well, what about a fat-free diet? And I just want to tell you that that is a super dangerous thing to get engaged in. You require fat. We require it. It is, like I said, those omega-3 essential fatty acids are required by our body. We can't produce them. We have to take them in through food or supplementation. Okay. So fat is it's a part of every cell, and it has some really important functions for us. Those omega-3s, again, they're supporting our brain, our skin, our hair, our nails, our heart. They are anti-inflammatory for us. They decrease inflammation. And so if you think of one of the natural byproducts of stress, of physical activity, it just naturally, we produce inflammation from those things. These omega-3s are a really powerful way to kind of combat that and keep that inflammation in balance. It also helps us contribute to a decreased fat storage. So this mindset of like, well, I can't eat fat. No, actually you want healthy fats. It's going to help you with the maintaining the right fat storage, fat level for you in your body. Okay, we must have it. It's the omega-6s, it's the trans and the saturated fats that we want to limit because of their negative effects on health and the way that they promote inflammation. Okay. This number for student athletes is very broad. So again, it's kind of coming back to like, what do I think is the best place for me to start? And I can always adjust later if I find that things aren't working for me. Okay, but for student athletes, it should be 20 to 33% of their total calories that are coming from healthy fats. So if you want to calculate this, again, you're taking your total daily number of calories and you're multiplying it by the percentage of the number that you chose. So if you chose 25, right, you're taking your calories times 25% or multiply by 0.25. Okay. So hydration is another piece that is really, really important and actually impacts performance in ways that we sometimes don't realize. And for student athletes, because their bodies are changing very rapidly, because they don't, their body doesn't moderate temperature the same way yet as adults do, we see dehydration much more common in student athletes than we do in adult athletes. So 2 out of 3 young athletes are chronically dehydrated. A 1% decrease in hydration status will impact performance. It will impact their ability to perform really technical skills. So like I think of like hockey, if you're stick handling the puck down the ice, those things that require a lot of technical skill, but also a lot of focus. And it's the focus and the concentration is the other piece that the hydration really impacts. So we need to sort of train ourselves to get into a habit of hydrating often, every day, with water. Okay. A really, really easy and effective way to determine if you are on track with your hydration status is to look in the toilet after you go to the bathroom. And I know it sounds odd, but we can learn so much what's going on inside when we observe our output. Okay, it's a reflection of what's going on inside. So if you notice that your urine is quite like clear or lightly colored yellow, then you're probably fine. Keep doing what you're doing, drinking water, making it a habit, okay? If you notice, however, that your urine is a little bit darker, you're probably also going to notice it has a stronger smell, and you probably will notice that you're not going as often as sometimes you would. Then these are simply, you guys, they're messages. They're messages from our body that something is off. We need something. And in this case, we need water. Okay, so we start rehydrating if we notice those things. Probably the most frequent thing student athletes would talk to me about or complain about with hydration is headaches. So again, message, oh, I've got a bit of a headache today. How can maybe I need some more water. Okay, there's a lot we can do to just start listening to these things that pop up that we think are maybe annoyances or hassles. Our body is showing us something. We need to pay attention. Okay, give it what it needs. Okay, so this piece here is more about what to eat and when to eat it. And this is kind of the strategy piece about like, okay, so if I'm an athlete and I need like 3,200 calories a day, like how am I going to do that? I am busy. How do I make this work? This is based off of a strategy called nutrient timing that some nutritionists say works really well, and others say it's kind of old information, it doesn't really work, or it's not that important. But what I have found with student athletes specifically is that this works really, really well to make sure that they are continually fueling their bodies so that they can get to that big number that they need in their very busy lives. Okay. So you can think about this in like, this is the average day. This is a way that I can set up my day to eat so that I'm getting enough. Or depending how you're, like, say you have a tournament or several competitions back to back, this could also really work for you well to make sure you're staying fueled enough for performance in those situations. Okay. So the first thing we think about the day would be like our pregame meal or our breakfast. You ideally, you want to consume this 2 to 3 hours before competition. And this ensures that you can digest that food, that your body can assimilate it, that you have reserves of energy that are ready in your muscles that are ready to be used. And in this meal, we want to include good quality carbohydrates. We also want to include some protein and a little bit of healthy fat. And the reason that we want to make sure the protein and the fat are in there is because this is like a foundation of food for the day. Okay, when I meet athletes that only eat carbohydrates for breakfast, they are exhausted by 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning. And the rest of the day is hard for them. Okay, carbohydrates alone. So, if you're eating cereal for breakfast, even sometimes like a good quality, like an oatmeal or something all by itself at breakfast, it still digests very quickly. And so we find that, in an hour or two, we're really hungry again. What can we add into there just to give it more density? The protein and the fat slow the digestion. So we get this like more stable foundation, and then we get to build upon that throughout the day. Okay, this is lasting energy throughout the day. Then what you can do is say you're in a tournament, once you get to the gym, or maybe you're just pulling up to the arena in the vehicle, you're going to have a carbohydrate rich snack. So a banana, an apple, a granola bar, some dried fruit, something that will digest more quickly, that will give you sort of a quick restore of those carbohydrates that you've already used up as you move around in your day. So this ensures that your muscle stores of glycogen are maxed out when you hit the court or the field or the ice. Okay, this is quick energy that we're just kind of topping up to make sure we're ready to go. Then depending how your day goes, you're going to make sure that you snack between training or between events or competitions. And when you're having these snacks, you want to make sure that they have carbohydrate and protein together. So when we consume the carbohydrate, we're restoring the glycogen stores in the muscles, and we're consuming protein to make sure we've got that recovery piece covered. Okay. And we just repeat this throughout the day. We play, we eat, we train, we eat. This helps us get not only the energy and the recovery piece, but also make sure we have enough energy in the whole day. They're eating frequently, small amounts frequently. Okay. Then at the very end, so say you have your last game of the day and you're walking out of the gym, you want to eat a snack. This is again, carbohydrate and protein together. It sometimes is refuted, what they would call this like window of recovery, where if we consume food in this time, our muscles are most ready to absorb it, and we can use it again later when we need it. Some say it works, some say it doesn't. For student athletes, it's really important because, again, they're so busy, they're doing so much, most of them aren't eating enough anyway. So carb and protein together, something easy, something quick in the gym bag that they can walk or eat in the car on the way home. Okay. And then dinner. So last meal of the day, hopefully you can take time to sit down and enjoy it in a relaxed environment within about 2 hours of that last activity. Okay. Think about 1/4 of a plate lean protein, 1/4 of the plate whole grains or starchy carbohydrates, so squash, things like that, and 1/2 of the plate colorful vegetables, colorful carbohydrates. And then we can incorporate some healthy fats in there along the way too. Maybe there's a salad with some avocado on it or some nuts in a stir fry or something like that. Okay. These help with that, again, that reducing inflammation after a long period of play or training. Okay. So I know that can seem like a lot, but with practice and just baby steps, we just get into the habit of fueling often. And the gains that your athletes will see are amazing. Okay. I saw it with the girls at UFC, and it didn't take a long time. Now, the other part for me is that I cannot talk about food without talking about stress. Okay, so this is that holistic picture for me. You might have heard that we are what we eat. Okay, I would say we are more so what we digest, and we are even more so what we absorb, the nutrients that we actually take away from the food. Okay, but I will tell you that we do not digest food when we are under stressful conditions, when we are experiencing stress. And this is another highly, highly, highly overlooked component of student athlete health and wellness. All of the athletes on the call here, probably, I don't think I'd be too far off the mark if I said you experience fairly frequent pressure or stress in your daily experience in different ways, in different shapes and forms. Okay, so our stress response, this whole thing happening in our body, is really designed to keep us safe. The thing is that our brain does not recognize the difference between a real threat, tiger jumping out of you in the jungle, okay, versus a perceived threat. I got a text message from my friend and I'm like, what is she saying here? Like, oh, that doesn't feel good. Okay, truly a threat? Not really, but we perceive it that way. It doesn't matter. Our brain can't tell the difference. What it does, though, is it sets off alarms. An alarm system goes off through the body and we release stress hormones, adrenaline and cortisol. And these hormones produce body-wide changes. Okay. When we are under real physical stress or danger, we do not require digestion. We do not require our immune system to be working. We do not require that our blood pressure and heart rate are low and relaxed and our hormones, our reproductive organs are functioning. No, we need all of the blood and energy in our extremities. We need cortisol pumping to break stuff down so we have more fuel. We need our heart rate up. We need our breathing up. We need our blood pressure up, right, to survive. But we don't need that actually to withstand a maybe sort of stressful text message, but our body does it the same. So what we find is that more and more we are under chronic states of stress simply because our brain isn't differentiating between what's a real threat and what's a perceived threat. The effect in the body is the same. Now, for our student athletes, we perform under stress. We sometimes perform it even a little better. There's like this sweet spot in there where we're like excited, anticipating, and that's when we perform well, but it is still stress. Okay. In order to efficiently recover from the competition, from the effects of the stress, we have to get our cortisol levels to drop back down to normal. Okay, that's where recovery happens. Unfortunately, what happens now is that our student athlete finishes practice or the game. Maybe they didn't perform the way they wanted to, so they're a little upset about that, and then get in the car and they get the text message from the friend that's like, "Oh, so-and-so said this," and there's stress there. And then they're worried about the exam that they have the next day, and they spend 3 hours studying that night, not feeling confident. And then they go to bed and they don't sleep. There's no time in there for the body return to this normal state where we are digesting, where our breathing and our heart rate and our blood pressure come down, where our reproductive function and our growth and development can take place. None of that happens when we're stressed. Our immune system functions when we are relaxed. So it's not just sport for our student athletes. They're student athletes. They're people. They have life also on top of sport. And what we're seeing, because they don't understand how to actually recover, to bring their body back to this baseline, decreases in performance, greater rates of injuries, more burnout, chronic disease, anxiety, depression, fatigue. And this is just when they're young. Like, this is what we see adults dealing with because we haven't learned how to manage stressful things in our lives. But they're facing this now. Okay. We have the beautiful, amazing ability within sport to teach mindful, intentional recovery to our athletes, and this will benefit them for the rest of their lives. Okay, because it's not just going to end when their sport experience ends. So coaches, things again, you can engage with your athletes, or athletes, you do this for yourself just as a period of reflection, is to really just think about how stress feels, what causes us to experience stressful feelings in our day. And I would write this stuff down. So what situations cause me to feel stressed out? Is it my grades at school? Is it exams? Is it when there's a really important game, when maybe I'm transitioning into a new role in my team, or there's a confrontation, or, it's different for all of us. So as individuals, we need to acknowledge what these things are for us. Okay, we can prepare a little bit for them then. And then how do I actually know when I'm experiencing stress? And the key thing here again is the body will show us. It gives us messages. Am I shaking? Okay, is my heart racing? Do I have a headache right now? Am I all of a sudden super tired? And the one that most groups right away, they understand when I say, have you ever experienced butterflies in your stomach? That is a physical reaction to a stressful situation. We feel it in our body. And so if we can start to understand that these things that we're feeling are, again, they're just messages. The body is showing us, and we then can respond in a way that is supportive and helpful for our health. Okay. What helps me to feel more relaxed as a person? What makes me feel good? Do I like listening to music? Do I need to phone a friend or someone that I trust? Maybe I need to go for a walk in the woods. Do I journal? Just write stuff down, like brain dump. Maybe I just go do something fun with my friends. Maybe I do some yoga. Maybe I breathe. Maybe I go to a yoga class. Again, it's different for everyone, but the more athletes, if you can start to ask yourself these questions, and the more as coaches and administrators of programs that we provide space for our athletes to experience what it actually feels like to relax, they crave it. I had this experience on Friday teaching a yoga class to a group of zany grade 10 students in a high school gym. As soon as I got them moving and breathing and doing, then they could relax. And I think some of those kids in that gym never ever had that kind of experience of feeling totally relaxed before. It's really, really cool. And it absolutely impacts our performance on court. And I saw it with those girls at UFC too. Sometimes our yoga session was nothing more than me leading them through a relaxation at the end of their day. They need it. Okay. So this is really just, it's a shift. Okay. I know it can seem like a lot. Oh my God, now we got to think about food, and now we got to do relaxation, and no. It's just a shift in perspective, because this is the stuff that should actually be at the bottom of our experience. It should line the whole youth sport experience, in my opinion, and everything else will stack so nicely on top of it. So I just want you to imagine for a minute, if fatigue, our athletes feeling tired, wasn't seen as such an inconvenience, but was taken as a message, and then we could do something about that instead of just being upset that we're tired. Okay, what if eating well wasn't seen as a hassle and one more thing we have to do, but what if it was seen as a gift and an opportunity? Okay, imagine, coaches, imagine how your athletes' performance and focus would improve if they actually came to practice well-fueled. Like, think of what you could achieve in a shorter period of time if they had the energy and the nutrients they needed. Imagine if wellness programming was just a part of a culture of excellence, not only for the athletes, but if it was something we could also offer to the parents and the coaches as part of this beautiful experience. Okay. What if youth sport not only provided the life lessons that we know are so valuable, the hard work, the teamwork, the discipline, the commitment, but also this just a foundation of understanding of, oh, this is how the body works. This is what I need in my life to be healthy and to excel. Okay. What if, I was laughing the other day, I heard somebody say, well, we need more mindful movement. And I was like, shouldn't all movement be mindful? Like, what if, could that not just be the norm? Could that be something that we shift into? what if a nutritional focus could actually just make life easier? Instead of feeling it has to be so complex, what if it could just make everything work better? And I tell you that it can. It absolutely can. Okay, so the thing with all of this, and again, I know it can seem like a lot, but I want you to know that you have already started this because you're here. So you need to celebrate the fact that you have started this and that you're here. And again, that you are not the normal student athlete or this normal coach or the normal program, because most of them aren't doing this yet. So you just need to keep going. Okay. Small changes. This week, I'm going to eat less processed foods. This week, today, I'm going to see how many plant foods I can eat in one day. I'm going to have a team chat and we're going to see how much water combined we can consume as a group in one day, right? Like just little things. They're just seeds that we're planting and they start to bubble up. And the most amazing things grow from these little seeds that we sometimes think are so insignificant. They are not. Every little thing that you can do makes a difference. Okay. And again, because you're in this team environment, you have the most amazing opportunity to just nourish this as a group, to make it a part of your culture. It's a culture of wellness. It's a culture of excellence. It's a culture of like crushing goals and winning, because we all love to win. Okay. Because really, you guys, I truly believe like you deserve to be healthy. You deserve to meet those and exceed your performance goals, and you deserve to enjoy this time of your life. You don't need to feel tired. You don't need to feel overrun. We can, I believe there are solutions for all of this. Okay. You can do all of this. And like I said, any emphasis you place on this now will impact your performance. It's not a question of when. It will, and you will outperform your competitors, because most student athletes aren't doing this stuff yet. Okay. So I'm going to hang around for a few minutes. If you want to unmute and chat, I love seeing your faces. You can put your face on the screen. I just want to thank you guys. And if I can support you in any way in the future, whether that's as a team or a program or as an individual, if you're struggling with something, this is what I do. I work with teams. I help them develop programs on how to implement nutrition support for their athletes. I run workshops and seminars, not just for the kids, but also for the parents. I've done a lot of work around helping coaches figure out how they can incorporate little things like little mindfulness practices, ways to engage with their athletes to bring more wellness and focus in. And yeah, this is what I get to do, and I love it. So again, I just want to thank you for joining me. Thanks again, AJ, for having me. If you have questions, let me know, and I will send AJ the link for this. Once I get it converted and edited and that kind of thing, I'll take out a little bit at the beginning when we were just hanging out, but it's for you. So thank you for being here.
You guys, before you take off, and this wasn't planned, this wasn't asked, Diane didn't ask for this, but I'm going to tell you right now, if you follow her on social media, there's something that she has also. For $11, if you see her email address there on the screen, for $11, she has a 7-day meal plan for athletes. Okay, so you can contact her and get that. And again, 7 days for $11. She also has, where if you want a 60-minute consultation for an elite athlete for only $88 more. So for $100, you can have your own personal consultation with her. I think it's only fitting that I just sort of put that out there and let you guys know of that. Because again, I think, like she said, number one, I appreciate all you coaches for sharing this with your athletes and getting them involved in this conversation. But not only that, a lot of you are probably thinking, now what's next? Now, like, I'm ready to go. Like, now, how do we start? I think that 7-day meal plan, the $11, if you want to sit down as a family, have a consultation with her and build a more elite package for, say, your student athlete. Again, like you said, my mind is blown right now, Diane. Tremendous job. I'm excited for all of the athletes that we see, all the teams that we work with, all the families that are going to be able to start incorporating this. And Thanks so much, Dan. Like I said, my mind's blown, and it's been phenomenal. So thank you so much. And like you said, if anybody's got any questions, feel free to stick around. For those of you that have busy schedules today with teams that are games going on today, practices coming up. Again, thanks for tuning in.
Thank you.
You bet.
AJ, did you see what the total number of participants was at the end?
Yeah, we were at 86.
Oh, that's so fun.
Yeah, and like I said, so I don't know, hopefully the hockey team, which again, they would have just logged in one central location, and they have, obviously close to 18, 19 athletes. So I wouldn't doubt that potentially around 100 people. So like I said, a phenomenal job.
Awesome.
Yeah, so awesome.
Thanks for mentioning the meal plan. I actually
I saw it, and it because like you said, with this now, it's like there's so much energy that you brought to it, just an understanding of it all, and I think it's probably an eye opener for a lot of people. But then it's like, now what do I do? Like, now how do I implement this? And just being able to sit down with, obviously having a consultation with yourself, building out, there's taking in the plant-based, and you said there's a plant-based option also. Like there's going to be those different people that just sort of say, I know us personally, we have some athletes that are lactose intolerant, so like they're dealing with certain things, right? So there's always just those little tweaks that I think having that consultation with yourself. But again, like I said, if there's anybody that has stuck around, feel free to turn your mics on and ask questions.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Any of you that are still on here want to chat?
Hey, no questions must mean that was good. That was good. So yeah, if nobody has anything, we'll give another minute. Other than that, we'll sign off here. But if anybody has anything, go ahead.
Yeah, for sure.
I have a question.
Yeah, who is this?
This is Tammy, Ava Fugier's mom. Hi, that was really great. Thank you.
Welcome.
Do you have an Instagram account?
I do, yeah. It's at DJ Wellness.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
No problem. What sport is your athlete in, Tammy?
She's with Adrenaline Basal, and she also plays rugby.
Oh, nice.
So, and then she does, she's busy. And then she does yoga and gym at school. So she's constantly going. So she'd be in that heavy category.
Yeah.
Heavy category for working out, right?
Yeah.
And I just feel like her nutrition definitely is not where it should be.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll give you a call.
Yeah, no, that would be great. I think too, just for those of you that are still here, and Tammy, if this resonates, like mostly when I talk to parents, that's the general comment for most. Like, I know they're not getting what they need. And I think give yourselves some grace. They're at an age where they have to they're going to be making some of their own decisions. So as parents, we do our best, right, to sort of navigate that and help them. But it is too, just like our system isn't necessarily set up to make sure that they have time to do these things, right? They are very busy. And so part of what I like to be able to help people with is just like strategize a little bit, like how how do we do all this? Like, how do we make sure that they're getting what they need, and what does that planning look like? And then also putting some onus on the athletes, and the ones, if we're able to attach it to those goals or those dreams that they have, I find that the buy-in is sometimes better, or they can see it better, right? Because it's about what they want. So yeah, they're always good conversations to have, for sure.
Can I ask another question?
Yeah.
How do you feel about protein supplements?
It's so funny. This is exactly what I was chatting with a mom about yesterday. I think that sometimes they are helpful. I think every individual needs to, it's individual for sure. Supplements aren't tested at all on kids, right? So, I mean, when they say whatever it is on the label, it's all geared to adults. So I think that's something to keep in mind. I think they can be used to supplement if we're getting to that high end where we know that the athlete isn't getting enough. Perhaps there are other barriers like time or dietary restrictions or limitations and things like that. I always try, if we can, to get it through food first, real food. But sometimes they are a helpful and occasionally necessary thing to just help them get over that hump and some of those barriers that student athletes have. The mom that I was talking with the other day, she asked if her daughter could put more than one scoop in one smoothie. And I just said, there's really no value to that. Like, we can only take in so much at a time. And my question first in that situation would have been like, well, what else can we get her actually eating that's real food to make sure she's not using 2 scoops of 30 grams of protein in each scoop in her smoothie? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Diane, it sounds like that's a wrap. So once again, thanks so much. I appreciate this, and I'm sure that this isn't going to be the end of it. As we continue to grow, hopefully some people are reaching to you over the next few days as well, personal level. But thanks so much again. I appreciate it and look forward to these type of sessions in the future as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Echoing all of that back to you. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome, Diane. You have a great day.
Okay, you too. See you later.
Bye-bye.